Welcome back to the Beyond the Bucket Show. It's my pleasure to bring on a living legend, Coach Sue Phillips. Welcome to the program.
Chris, thank you for having me. Let's living legend. Let's just stop right there. I'm a coach just like you in the WCAL, just trying to win my next one, right?
Yeah, you're very modest, and we'll get into all the things that you've done and in your basketball career and continue to do. And I think the most important thing that you've been doing is growing the game. The first year I got into the WCL, this is going to be my 8th season, but we were in Arizona. We both didn't know it, but we pull up to the coaching clinic, the Nike coaching clinic, and you were actually speaking. It was Sunday after all the speakers had gone, and you had a great presentation. We caught up in the airport, had a beer and hung out and just talked hoops, but that was really our first interaction and getting to know each other. So tell me about, your process on giving back to the game.
Well, thank you. Chris, I think it's a journey, right? So this will be my 28th or 29th year as a head coach at Archbishop Mitty. Yeah. And I think we all need to start at the grassroots level, right? So continue to put a ball in the hand of kids in 3rd and 4th grade, and that they have a positive experience, an impactful experience with our youth programs, and continue to just grow the game. Having moments like this on podcasts to just talk basketball and to share ideas, to learn from each other, to continue to grow and evolve and kind of spread that idea with these youngsters in our area. Unfortunately, a lot of coaches are having these kids specialize at such a young age, and I try to guard against that. I think particularly at the 10 and unders, but if we can get them for part of the year and put a ball in their hand, and hopefully as they progress throughout the AAU and high school ranks, they continue to play the game that you and I both love. So
for sure.
I just do whatever I can to give back because it's been so good to me. And any chance I can get to give back, I'm all for it.
Definitely. Well, we appreciate all that you do. You talked a little bit about specialization, and I think that is a very, very profound topic. One, because I think kids are specializing too early. And to your early point, I think, if you get to high school and after your freshman year, you have a really good opportunity to play that sport at the collegiate level, then that age 14, 15, 16 is the time that you kind of need to decide, okay, I can really play at the college basketball level or softball or soccer, whatever it may be. But that's when that choice should be made. Enter your freshman year. After that, then kind of evaluate, some of those things, and if you want to continue to play because you like it or you really have a good opportunity to play. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I would probably echo much of what you said. I do believe there are a few exceptions. We had a Carrie Walsh, who was a 2-sport athlete, who was an Olympic volleyball player, and Kehlani Ricketts, who is an Olympic softball player. Sure. I mean, there are some exceptions where these kids are just the elite of the elite athletes who can be incredible in their respective sports at that given time because they're just these athletes who can adapt and adjust to the task at hand, whatever sport that might be. Yeah. Now, the vast majority, I think, at some point will need to specialize, but not until sophomore, junior year, maybe.
Sure.
And that, again, that's only if they aspire to play at the next level, because then they will need to continue to develop their skill set, their fitness level, raise their basketball IQ, things of that nature. Yeah. But certainly not in middle school. I think that's nuts. You have the overuse injuries. You run that risk coupled with, just the typical burnout.
Yeah.
And there's something to be said about being exposed to different coaches and friend groups and teammates and philosophies. There's a ton to be gained by playing multiple sports, particularly as they're growing up.
For sure. And you touched on some of the great players that you've had the opportunity to coach, and we're for sure going to talk about that. But I want to ask something about you. So for the people that may not know you out there, outside of the basketball community or even inside, what is something that nobody really knows about you?
Okay, well, I'm a first-generation Polish immigrant. My parents immigrated from Poland in 1948.
Wow.
My dad's real last name is Phillips, and he changed it out of fear from persecution of the Germans. So he was a concentration camp survivor. He's an amazing dude.
Wow.
So Phillipak's my real last name, but I roll with Phillips because that's what I was born into. And then
Sure.
probably the funniest story about me is I can ride a unicycle.
Huh.
Uh, no,
That's
I'm
a,
not
that's,
saying that.
that's a fun
Hold on.
fact. That's a
It's
fun
a
fact.
it's a fun fact, but it's also an embarrassing fact
Yeah.
because I was terrible at riding a bike, so much so that my three siblings made fun of me, right? And I'm the
Huh.
youngest of four.
Yeah.
And so I was so mad at how much they made fun of me that I was going to show them. So I decided I was going to learn how to ride a unicycle. And so during this COVID break, I actually went out and got another unicycle and I
Yeah.
started practicing again. And,
Oh, wow.
40 years later and 30 pounds and all that good stuff is a little more challenging.
Yeah, that's pretty
So
cool. I saw somebody on the trail, and we don't live too far from each other, but on the Los Gatos Creek Trail, there was a gentleman that was on this unicycle and going up this hill, and I'm on my bike, and I kind of, I slowed down because I kind of wanted
yeah.
to see. This is kind of intriguing to me. How's this man going to get up this hill with, with just his two legs and one wheel? I just thought that was amazing. I just literally saw that this past Saturday when I went on a bike ride. So that's
Yeah, I
that's
won't be doing any hills anytime soon. Let's be clear.
okay.
I'm just sticking with the straightaways.
Definitely. Well, tell me about the straightaway to your career. You've had a sustained excellence over a long period of time. Like you mentioned, I believe 28 years in coaching high school. How have you been able to do it for so long at such a high level?
I think, it started back in high school. I played all the sports. And I think it was just because I was on my mom's nerves. She put me on a bowling team, a swim team, basketball, softball, soccer, all of them. And then I started to specialize in basketball and softball. And I was fortunate enough to be offered a full ride to Cal on a basketball scholarship. Northwestern offered me a full ride softball scholarship. And, I'm 5'0" and I thought, hey, I got a better shot at excelling in softball. At that time, that was my mentality. So I went and played softball in college, but I had this terrible, I just missed basketball terribly. And I would go to all the Big Ten games. My teammate who played on the women's basketball team, not my teammate, my roommate rather, and a lot of friends on the men's team. So I went to a bunch of their games, and they had an incredible coaching. Like you had Bobby Knight, you had Gene, Katie,
Yeah.
Fisher was there at the time. There was a tremendous coaching nucleus in that conference, and just saw great basketball, right?
Yeah.
So as I got out of college, I really still missed basketball. And I started coaching actually the JV team at Mitty. It was my first coaching job, and I did some softball at West Valley, coached some club softball as well. And I just really picked up my passion from there. And then Mitty offered me a teaching job, teaching math, and coaching the varsity team. I was really young, very green, way in over my head, and it was like baptism by fire.
Yeah.
And I think given the fact that I don't maybe have the pedigree that some of my counterparts might have, I take it to heart that I have to be more a student of the game. So I watch film all the time, and I wish I could just watch D-Rob play and enjoy it, but I'm sitting there like picking apart what the coaches are doing and trying to learn and implement. So it's a blessing, right? It's a blessing, but I take it to heart. I have to continue to evolve and learn. Went back to school to get my master's in performance psychology because I felt I needed to be better at communicating and motivating kids, because I grew up in an era where, you have the carrot and the stick, and we grew up in an era, it was the stick,
Yeah.
and that's not going to fly. So kind of have to be more creative in the way we motivate kids. So the short answer is sustain excellence. I'm kind of personally driven to be better. I do think systemically we do have a thing called triple threat. Our triple threat is the way in which we win each day, and that the triple threat is core values, operational standards, and then we also have pillars of character. So those are the three things I think. Obviously, we get talent, coaching staff's consistent, we're solid in what we do. So it's a combination of factors, right?
Yep.
But we just continue to focus on those three areas in the triple threat, and I think winning and losing is a byproduct of how you conduct your business. And I think that's a function of that.
Definitely. Tell me, your thoughts on reinventing yourself. You kind of just mentioned it. You're a lifelong learner, always trying to better yourselves. Just think of any great actor or actress. Think of anybody in any profession. They're constantly reinventing themselves and diversifying, whether that be their portfolio or
Right.
their offering. How many times have you reinvented yourself? You know, you have a way that you want to do things and coach, but how many
Right.
times have you kind of redeveloped your philosophies?
It's a great question, Chris. I mean, look at yourself. You're doing podcasts. I mean, that's a
Yeah,
great way to continue to diversify your skill set, right?
sure.
Um, and similarly, I just try every day to evolve. Literally, every day I try to do a new skill, whatever. And that might be something silly like drawing something new or learning a new UOB play, or it could be doing something outside my comfort zone. I had a horrible fear of public speaking early in my coaching career. And so, you know, when you saw me at that clinic, it's a long way from where I first came.
Sure.
And I realized it was selfish to be caught up in my own set of fears, as opposed to being willing to get out there and make mistakes and be gracious in your mistakes and humble in your successes. And that's a great way to model that. We do that in the classroom all the time, but it's different when you're speaking to your peers about basketball, when there's so many different philosophies. Um,
Absolutely.
and I think as our kids continue to evolve, you know, like you said, we like to do certain things, but as your teams evolve, you get different kids every year. I think you too have to tweak your system. You have to
Sure.
tweak the way in which you engage with your kids and motivate. So while we try to build a program, we don't try to build a season. I think we truly try to think about a kid over a 4-year span. You
Yep.
still do need to tweak what you're doing for that particular year, given that combination of kids.
Yeah.
So every year is a journey, a process. I know you hear that a lot,
Yeah.
but if you can find joy in the process as opposed to that destination, then you're going to be all right. Most days are going to be better than not. So
Definitely.
that's kind of my approach.
I agree with you in a lot of respects. You mentioned that, you know, early on in your career, you were green. And I just remember when I first started coaching the girls side, I was really green as far as, you know, just learning the girls game. And I tried to soak up as much as I possibly could, because I just didn't know what I didn't know. And I felt like, yeah, I was a good coach and all of that stuff. But you look back 8 years later and you're like, man, what were you doing? You had 50 different quick hitters and 17 blobs. Like, you know, no, you have to basically
Right.
minimize what you're putting out there so you can be more successful when you execute. And that's one of the things that I've really admired about you is, you know, we could know all of your sets, but the execution level at which you guys run them is so high and everybody knows where they're supposed to be. It doesn't really matter. And so you've gotten to the point now where it's like clockwork. And I know it takes a lot of work, but when people see it, they say, wow, that was good. That looked really good. But I just know that the amount of hours and time that you put into it to make that successful play actually work. So I just appreciate that. But, what motivates you now to this day, 28 years in?
You know, touching upon what you just talked about, which was having really good execution on game day.
Mm-hmm.
As you know, there's so much teaching that goes involved into that to be successful on game day. And so what motivates me is that I love to teach, right? I love to teach. I mean, let's not get it twisted. My mortgage is paid because I'm a math teacher, right? I love to teach. Coaching is my passion. Basketball is my passion. So I love to teach in the gym when we're in there. And I am motivated by seeing the fruits of our labors come to fruition. So having a vision for a kid, having them, along with their parents, buy into that vision, the core values, our culture, and then seeing them progress and having it all come together on game day is like one of the most rewarding things you can see as a coach. And then, you know, we've had over 50 kids go to the next level, millions of dollars worth of scholarship money. It's so incredibly rewarding to see the fruits of our labor also play out long-term so that these kids can continue their education and their basketball playing careers. So twofold. I like to get better every day, which lends itself to evolving as a coach. And two, I want to be my very best for the person next to me, which is my coaching staff and the kids, or the people that are willing to trust and invest their daughter's development to us. And
Sure.
so we truly take that to heart, and we try to run with it.
Absolutely. What struggles have you had, in your position? You're a national program. You play a national schedule. You play in our opinion, the best league in the entire country.
Amen. Amen.
And we'll keep standing on the top of the mountain screaming that until we get our respect. But you play anybody and everybody. You've been dominating the Central Coast section for a number of years, but people may not understand some of the struggles that somebody like you or a program like Mitty has, because they think it's, they're up here and they get this and they get that, they get the best players. But, the longer I do this, everybody has struggles. And so what are some of the things that you've struggled with or the program has that people may not really understand?
Well, I think, we certainly get our share of talent. There's no question. But I would argue we do a fantastic job with player development. I think kids leave our program better people, better leaders, and better basketball players. We're not just building jump shots, right? We're building the total package. And some of those challenges come with this notion of playing a national level schedule. So going to Nike TOC costs money. You have those challenges of maybe it's during final exams. So then we have to make sure that our GPA is such and that our kids are good standing in the classroom so that we can take these kind of trips. Scheduling locally is very challenging because, as you know, the people that we want to play are already in our league.
Right.
So then you have to schedule, say, in the NCS for teams that are also aspiring for that open division. And then there becomes that travel issue. And before COVID, traffic was a nightmare. So then you have, think about it, when you're going to Sacred Heart Cathedral, going to Valley, that could be a 3-hour trip sometimes.
It sure is.
So travel and having the kids on buses for that long, taking them away from their families and their schoolwork, those are some challenges on the periphery that affects our kids. So scheduling is always a challenge. I think with the CIF having, 10 or so odd different sections with different game limitations and start dates and sit out periods, we struggle to also find the common ground there of when we can play, say, Mater Dei in the South. Our starting dates with COVID it's nuts throughout the state. Geico Nationals is not an option for California kids. For teams. It'd be great to be able to take our team to Geico Nationals, but the CIF says that's outside of our window of the end date. And so that's another challenge. So if you really aspire to be ranked nationally, and I'm proud to say we have over the past 8 years in the top 25 in the country, you can't just do that playing as good as our CCS is and California basketball. You got to get out and travel.
Sure.
And securing those games and then performing at that level when, say, a team from Texas already has 20 games and you're playing game number 2.
Right.
So those aren't excuses, just a function of it is what it is.
Yeah.
Right.
And the crazy part is, think about the Southern section. They can start practices as soon as school starts, right? So,
correct.
And they have fall leagues and they have all this, and that, it just is what it is. Obviously, we've in the North has overcome, and every section is different. But just for instance, we just got off our coach's Zoom call, and there's a couple of tournaments that we would like to go to in late March, but our section has designated that we can't play contests. Correct. At that time. And so now we're missing out on games, and we're trying to figure out how we're going to cram 14 games in a season in which we can't travel, most likely,
right,
out of state, and on planes and all of that.
Exactly.
And now we have to combat that. But that's exactly what you're saying, as far as you guys having those struggles automatically if you're in this position that you're in.
On the yearly basis, yeah. And, I know Ali Moreno's going out of St. Mary Stockton is running a 2-day event. So we'll probably pick up a couple games there. you know, Chris, I think we're all just trying to kind of do the same thing, right? We're trying to create the most competitive schedule for our kids, create that perfect balance of challenge with some success, because the WCL is a gauntlet. On any given night, it's a battle. And as you know, to qualify for postseason, you have to have 500 or better, either in league or preseason. And so given that most people don't have their league schedule yet, it's been a challenge to try to identify, okay, well, what's our open dates? So those are a few of the challenges, but it's also a blessing. They're Cadillac problems, right? I'm in a beautiful position. I have a great job. My program's in a place where the culture's established. I have a wonderful coaching staff. So, you know, life is good, but that doesn't mean that there are some tough days. I mean, when the state final got canceled, I was so bummed. We were rolling. And
you were.
Terry Benford's a good friend of mine, and I was looking forward to the opportunity to play La Jolla Country Day, but, you know, it didn't happen. So open division title wasn't in the cards.
Right.
You know, and
it was a shame that happened. I was hoping they can get that one game in, because that would have been a great rematch. I know you guys played at the TOC.
Yeah.
Had a really close game, and then it was just
Pow
unfortunate.
took over. Pow took over.
Yeah,
she's fantastic.
She's going to Oregon, right?
She is, and it's great to see her bounce back after those knee injuries. And so, you know, with that being said, I'm got my fingers, toes crossed, prayers up, all the above, that we get to have a season.
Right.
And, you know, we talked in our coaches Zoom call about this idea of being a spring sport. And while, you know, that's almost 11 months away from the conclusion of the season, it's probably better to kick the can down the road so we can try to get a handle on COVID and the vaccine and how to mitigate cases. So yeah, it is what it is. I hope we get a season, but obviously kids' safety and our community, everyone's safety and health and well-being's got to be our priority. So
definitely. Coaches, we hold it on our sleeve if our team wins and loses, right? And you've had the opportunity to win so many games. I think you've got a WCL record going on right now for consecutive wins in our league. So hats off to you. But there are some downtimes that we have as coaches, me included, and we still hold on to some of those games. I remember semifinal game in NorCal a few years ago. I think this was our second year, and we had no business playing with Bishop O'Dowd. This is when they had Asha Thomas and all of them, and we had the game won. We ended up losing by 4 points. They go on to win the state championship by 15 points, and you're like, those moments, like, I wish we would, you know, we could have did this, we could have did this. You still go back and look back on those games. The first game we ever played we had no business playing. We had no business even being competitive, and that was when you had Kelly Hayes.
Mm-hmm.
I think we were up 4 with like 30 seconds left. She comes down, blitzes the dribble handoff, goes and scores a layup, comes back, gets another steal. And long story short, you guys end up beating us in overtime, but we had no chance. We just played, you know, you guys shot badly and all of that. And our team.
Oh, come on, Chris. It was a competitive game.
But you still remember those games. So, you know, as somebody who's had so much success, people like to at least hear that you're human and you got to go through some of those things as well. So are there any specific games that I wish we had had that one?
Here we go. 1996, Chris. This is how long ago. This one just like burns in me.
Oh, no.
We were playing Mater Dei, and at that time you got to petition whatever division you wanted to play in. You could always go up. So we just went D1. You know, we were Division IV school at the time. We just played D1 every year. So we were playing Mater Dei in the state finals. We were favored to win. We were up at halftime. They had a kid, Melody Peterson. I've never seen a kid do this move to this day. We had her dead in the water in the idiot corner right past half court, double teamed. She literally jumped up, split the double team through her legs, but she jumped up and threw it behind her legs and threw and went in, and it was like a 2-on-1.
Oh, my gosh.
Yes, we ended up losing. Carrie Walsh ended up fouling out. That one will forever be kind of like in my veins, like what in the world? Great team, well coached. But you know, it goes, you remember some great wins, but I think the losses stick with you far worse.
They do.
They stick with you far worse. And I think any ending, like season ending loss, has some special place in that cave that you have, right? That
Right.
you harness all those tough losses. But, you know, challenges are what build championships, right?
For
Success
sure.
doesn't build championships. So every time one of those games kind of nick me, I
Yeah.
am driven that much more. I'm driven to say, hey, I got to clean up XYZ. You know, we have to model taking ownership for those tough losses,
Right.
demonstrating to the kids that we too take as responsibility and accept that, hey, maybe we should have done some things differently too. And sometimes, Chris, quite frankly, I remember playing carondelet in triple overtime in NorCal, playing Margaret Gartner way back when.
Yeah.
One of the best games I've ever been a part of. We end up losing the game, but I remember going to locker room going, guys, we battled. That game could have went either way. And I
Yeah.
am so proud to be your coach, knowing we came all the way up here to De La Salle, played the game, and we came up short, but it was a great game for fans, right?
Right.
I was bummed, of course, but you know, when you do it long enough, you're going to have those.
Right.
But I don't put my head in the sand, maybe like for a day. And then
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, let's dust off and let's get back to it.
Right.
So
No, that's the attitude you have to take, because you'll drive yourself crazy as a coach if you always hold on to those losses. But the good news is you've been on the right side of most of those, and you know, the few heartbreaks that you had, I think anybody would exchange those losses for the success you've had. So tell me a little bit about USA basketball. You've had the privilege to coach there, I believe U17 for the last handful of years or so. But tell me about that and just working with so many great players.
So it's been USA basketball is amazing in that it grows the game in ways that I can't even explain, right? Like it's beyond words how much they've done for the game. I served on the selection committee for 4 years, and then I was a head coach for 2 years, the U16, U17 team. So what's neat now is those kids that I coached, I believe there's 7 of them in the WNBA now.
Wow.
You know, Arike Ambugale, Katie Lou Samuelson, Asia Doer, who else am I thinking? Christina Nigwe, Joyner Holmes, Crystal Dangerfield.
Yeah.
I mean, you can go on and on. And what was really neat was seeing them in those formative years. So I remember taking them to the World Championship in the Czech Republic. And what's different about USA basketball is they just have pockets of training camp and then the World Championships, where teams like France and Spain, they live together for a year and they prepare in ways that we don't. So in the gold medal game, we're going to shoot around, and Spain was sunbathing and our team was heated. We walked by and they're like, Coach, can you believe they're, and I'm like, well, you know, we still can't run our UOBs right now. So we're going to go ahead and work on our under the basket out of bounds and get some shots up. We'll be all right. And we ended up winning in overtime. They had a kid, Salvador. She went to Duke, ended up going back home to turn professionally. She was amazing. Oh, and of course we had Sabrina Ionescu on our team as well.
Yeah.
So watching those kids kind of grow and develop and following their college career was amazing. Obviously, coaching with Mary Klinger and Brian Robinson. Mary's in New Jersey and Brian's in North Carolina. We're still friends to this day and connect about basketball. So those experiences are obviously like lifetime highlights for me, being able to say we won a world championship and coaching those kids. It's like I said, basketball's been so good to me. I've traveled the world, coaching the McDonald's All-American game. I know those kids too will end up being in the WNBA. Celeste Taylor's currently playing with Charisma Ortiz at Texas, and they're having a blast together back there in the backcourt.
Yeah.
So, it was an amazing experience. I recommend anyone who has an opportunity to, whether it's to be a court coach or to be on the selection committee or have the opportunity to coach, do it. And to our players, if you have an opportunity to, you have the money, go ahead and try out so that you can see what the benchmark is for the top players in the country. You can't do anything but go up, right? I mean, even we had Haley Jones when she was a youngster, she tried out like as a freshman. She eventually obviously made the team and ended up being the top player in her class. and is now playing at Stanford. But it was a journey for her too, and for her to go and see how she could reach for the stars, and eventually she landed among them. Right?
Right.
It's a pretty cool experience and opportunity for our kids to put on a USAB uniform.
Definitely. You touched on a little bit coaching so many great players, but you had the privilege to do that in your own high school at Mitty. My cousin Danielle Robinson,
Yes.
Haley Jones, Ricketts, Kerry Walsh. You just named Charisma Ortiz. Like you've coached a lot of really good players. What is it coaching those elite? What is it like coaching those elite level talented players? What is different from them and everybody else, because they are different, right? They're cut from a different cloth. They're built differently. They're able to take hard coaching, and it's just a pleasure and an honor to coach them, I'm sure.
Absolutely. Speaking to Danielle, as soon as I saw her at our camps as a sixth grader, I'm like, who is that? I mean, she was going end line to end line in a blink, and had ball skills like that of a high school kid.
Yep.
And I would say one of the major differences is that the great players want to be told the truth, right? Coaching is correction. Okay. People think it's just encouragement. Sure. That's part of the equation, but I think we recognize that great players want to be told the truth, the brutal truth.
Sure.
Even when it's difficult for them to hear, because they're driven of wanting to be great. And so they don't want to be patronized with, a pat on the back because they made a layup. They actually want to be able to strive for those difficult combo moves and finishes, or to understand the game at a really high level. And I think that's, as a coach, your challenge is you've got to recognize what each kid needs and wants, and you have to kind of tailor your approach to them. But all those kids, Kelly Hayes and Haley Jones and Danielle Robinson, these are kids who played at Chris Ortiz, played at the BCS levels, Power 5 conferences. Those kids really want to be pushed and pulled. And sometimes not all the kids want that, and that's okay.
Yep.
But when you find that those kids want that, the really good ones pull along the rest, right? So they start to bring up the level of play of the other kids. And that's what I've been so blessed to see, is having those kids. You're such great kids and phenomenal leaders, that they influence the level of play of their teammates as well, in a positive way.
One story I do have about Charisma, and actually Haley, Charisma, and Danielle, they all had something in common. They always played against boys. And I remember we're coaching our Tyler Johnson team.
Oh yeah.
And Charisma pulls up with Logan, Tyler's brother.
Yes.
She comes to hoop with the guys. And I was just on another call with another college coach today, and we were talking about how just girls playing with guys, and they don't really realize how good girls are. Like, and especially Charisma is just as good as any of those kids that were going Division I on the guys side, right? And we had a handful of those guys do that, and she's competing with them, which like wasn't astonishing to me because I know, but so many people, I hate when people say, like, when my friends come to the game, or if we're watching the WNBA or college basketball, and they're like, "You think we could take them?" I'm like, no, we can't take them. Like, are you kidding me? We could barely take some 8th graders right now, let alone, high level WNBA or college or even high school. Like it would be a problem for us to take down, some of those top level teams. But they play with anybody, and like you said, they just love the game.
Yeah, and I think people need to understand, as those women on TV with the WNBA are highly skilled, extremely athletic. And sure, when we talk about the high level NBA players, yeah, they're stronger, they jump higher. We're not talking about LeBron, okay?
No, absolutely not.
But when we're talking about high school kids competing against high school kids, in some instances, they're really high level and aggressive and competitive female players. I think benefit from playing an open gym against guys who tend to be quicker and stronger and taller. And in the Power 5 conference schools at the collegiate level typically have male practice players.
Absolutely.
Who come from, high level high school programs. And, they'll be the first to tell you that there are some days that they get their lunch handed to them, right?
Absolutely.
But it should be competitive, that it goes both ways. And I'm all for just promoting great basketball.
For
And
sure.
I don't care if it's the men's side, the women's side. Let's just continue to grow the game. Be positive about those people who are skilled and trying to do their very best. The haters, I just got no time for it.
Absolutely. That's one of the reasons why I started the podcast in the pandemic.
Yeah.
To your earlier point, you always want to do something new. And I was just like, oh, let me figure this out because
Great idea.
I've got a whole bunch of time and I wanted to share the game. One of the things that's really been on my mind is how do we develop the women's game even more? On our coaches Zoom, we talked about it and just the differences as far as, what the guys want versus what we want. And, some of the stances that we want to take as a league and saying, hey, we're one of the best leagues in the entire country. Like we're not backing down on some of the stances that we want, but
Right.
most importantly, how do we continue to grow the game? People ask me, do you want to go coach boys again? I'm like, no, I love coaching girls basketball. I've got a daughter that will be class of 2035.
Oh, that's great.
I want to see that take place, and my son could play for whoever he wants if that's the case. But how do we grow the game more, in your opinion? You're so dialed into so many different networks to help.
I think things like this is important. I think we as coaches need to connect and continue to advocate. One of your players plays on my club program, the San Jose Cagers, and collaborating for the betterment of that kid is awesome, right? Allowing her to be exposed to, a team that's considered a rival school and
Sure.
saying, oh my God, those kids struggle with the same stuff I do. And those kids are learning the same stuff I need to learn. And now all of a sudden she's got two networks, yours and mine, to help with her recruitment. And she's starting to understand, hey, there's another coach in our league who truly just wants me to excel at this game, as you advocated for charisma and coming to your open gyms. And this is what it should be. We should collaborate to continue to promote all of our kids in our league. And that helps, I think, more kids wanting to come into our league. And not that I'm just about our league, but given the fact that we have this nucleus of coaches and we communicate on the regular, if people can see that it's that camaraderie and collegial atmosphere amongst the coaches, that's how we get better, because we're sharing ideas. The more that we prepare against each other, the better product or game that's being put out there. And so I think scouting and sharing information and game film, dialoguing about how to beat a certain school is actually very healthy, because it lends itself to a better brand of basketball.
No doubt.
And you, like myself and a lot of the other coaches in our league, we spend our off season with AAU programs coaching kids that, are 8-year-olds, 9-year-olds. Some kids may come to our high school, some kids may not. But at the end of the day, we're continuing to grow the game in ways that is helping to promote better basketball in the Bay Area. And the more that we put ourselves out there as coaches and people, the better, because our people, our parents want to gravitate towards quality people. And while the Daniel Robbins of the world can make their living playing basketball, the vast majority will not. And so if we can have these young women utilize basketball as a passport to a next stop, which is a collegiate career and getting their education paid for, now they're being involved in sports in which we call education through athletics. So we're teaching them all these important life skills, which make them a valuable commodity in the corporate world. And so we've done our part helping to raise these young women into these valued leaders in our community. And I think that's the most empowering aspect of growing the game, because now we're impacting more and more women in a positive way.
Right. No, I agree with you. And, there's been kids that have played in our club program that go to Mitty. There's been kids that play for your club program and go to Valley. And at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter as long as the kid is in the right place that they need to be. And Valley's not for everybody. Mitty's not for everybody. And every other school in our league, it's going to the right fit where you think you're going to develop as a young woman and, you know, become your best version of who you are supposed to be. And if that includes basketball and continuing on, great.
Right.
But mostly your education and doing the right thing and learning those things. And, you know, I told a couple of people, yeah, I got Sue coming on the podcast. They're like, really? Why are you bringing her on? It's like, well, what do you mean? Why am I not? She's a great basketball mind. We do compete against each other 2 or 3 times a year, but at the end of the day, you said this to me when we first met. At the end of the day, we're just high school basketball coaches.
That is correct.
And we shouldn't take it so seriously where we can't have conversations. And guess what? Yeah,
Or disagree.
Or disagree. Yeah.
Right. Have our moments. We've had our moments, but if we can't get beyond that, like, come on, it's a game, and we need to be able to move on, learn from it. And also let bygones be bygones. You know, a game's a game, and a difficult conversation or a disagreement is a disagreement between adults, and we should be able to hold our ground and disagree and be adamant about our stance, but then not take it personal.
Right. And if everybody in the world did that, our world would be so much better, right? Because
amen to that.
We try to beat each other's head in, and you get the best of us on most occasions. But at the end of the day, like, this is what it's really all about: in collaboration, to your earlier point, and the best interests of the kids that play for our schools and the community, right?
Right. Right. Absolutely.
Tell me a little bit about, you know, how you go about putting together your system. Now, I know most of the stuff that you like to do, but like I said, it's up to us to try to stop it. But for young coaches out there that are listening to this, how did you start to develop your system, and, you know, and how many times has it really changed over the course of your career?
Well, I think it's important to understand where your strengths lie. As a coach, knowing that I have an active mind, and I'm a surprise and change kind of coach. I like to mix things up on both sides of the ball. Understanding the mental agility of your players, like, what is their capabilities? Like, initially when you take over a program, I think you need to have a main package defensively and offensively. I think it's short-sighted to just run a gazillion sets, because then your kids aren't learning how to play basketball. You might be able to teach them how to make reads within your sets, but I think it's important to have some type of continuity or motion offense, so that you are capable of having interchangeable parts within your players, because, you know, we're trying to build basketball players, not positions.
Sure.
And don't get me wrong, I think you would be foolish to take a 6'5" kid and just have him face up from the top of the arc all day. Like, that don't make sense.
Yeah. Doesn't
make sense. But do I think they should develop face-up skills? Absolutely. Develop ball skills, passing skills, dribbling, etc. So while I think you philosophically need to know what you can do well and what you'd like to teach, I also think you need to tailor that based on what you have.
Right.
So I try to get creative with my substitution patterns, trying to go as deep as I can on the bench.
I know. I know firsthand. First horn, there's 3 kids coming in.
Well,
our games take forever because you just keep running.
I know. Just stop. So I try to sub as much as possible to keep as many kids engaged as possible, but you can also get creative with your substitution patterns, that maybe this particular lineup can run a special defensive package, and then they feel unique and appreciated and valued. Like, hey, yeah, I'm part of that unit that can run this, 1-3-1 half court trap better than anybody else.
Right.
And so for those young coaches out there, like, get a main defensive package, a main offensive package. You got to have under the basket. You got to have a sideline. You have to have some special situations in there. I also think game management is a skill that's learned. Managing the time, score, foul count, understanding your opponent. I watch a ton of game film, Chris. Like, I could understand your substitution patterns going into a game pretty well, and then you'll throw a wrinkle in there. But as it goes, you have to be prepared so that you're not managing your opponent's chess play. You're managing your own chess play, because you already know what's got to happen. So again, I think I'm juggling a few more balls because I'm 29 years in. I have
Right.
a really good feel for game management at this point in my career. But a lot of that stuff is already done in practice. I'm not putting something on in a timeout we've never ran.
Yep.
That's just, I think, foolish.
Yep.
You can't expect a kid to execute that. Now, you could say, hey, you got to flare this screen, all right? Or you could tell them you got to curl the screen, they're going over the top, or they're going under, we want to stop and pop. There might be some minor adjustments that you've got to discuss in a timeout in terms of reads. And I think my pet peeve, Chris, for young coaches would be this, that call a timeout to coach your team.
Right.
If you're calling a timeout to berate the officials, you've already lost your team, because
Right.
now you're modeling that somehow the officials has your goat, and now the kids are going to start to lose a handle on that.
Right.
And so I would really encourage coaches to focus on their team, and the officials are just doing the best job they can.
Right. No,
Yeah.
you mentioned it, the process earlier, and then you've been doing it for 29 years. So it's, people think that they're going to start being a change and switch team where you go from
Right.
a run and jump to a 2-2-1 to a 1-3-1 full court, and then, you know, do a matchup zone and all of this. Like that's not realistic in your first couple of years. And you have to get, as far as the game management, you have to get reps under your belt, you know, so you've got to coach a lot of games. And both of us were coaching, you know, 75 plus games a year, if you can include AAU, you know, and that's where you try a lot of the stuff out. That's what I'll tell young coaches, some of our young coaches that want to be head coaches on the boys or girls side, doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
But you guys have to start thinking about those game reps, and AAU moves so quickly because they only give you two timeouts, maybe per half, if that, or the whole game. And then you're not, and they'll play halves instead of quarters. So that takes away 2 potential times that you can teach your group. So you got to get as many reps as you can. You can't skip steps. And what you were doing in year 1 is completely different than what you're doing in year 29. And that's what people need to understand, is this has been almost a 30-year process of you configuring what you like to do, what type of personnel do you have, and how do you mesh the 2 things together.
Yeah. And I think, Chris, when you start to learn, you diversify your system, you start to understand what's the carryover. So when we teach our matchup zone, there's a ton of our man principles. The difference is, instead of just switching everything, we're bumping some stuff, which is essentially, you know, designing personnel adjustments so that we continue to keep size underneath the bucket.
Right.
And when
by the way, you always use that in the second half only for the most part.
Because we're tired, Chris.
Yeah, well, I don't think that's the case, but
So,
it's just good tactics. You do a really good job. Oh, here it comes. And, you know, you guys do a really good job passing that off. And you just mentioned it. You keep somebody big underneath the basket. And that is huge.
It's huge. It's huge because, you know, the one thing we do great with length, because I recognize the importance of versatility and understanding. You know, when Haley came to me, she was a guard, but a lot of people put her under the basket because she was so big. And I said, Haley, look, you should be able to play positions 1 through 5. So you're going to rotate through our position development from points to wings to posts. And so every 3rd day you're doing something different. And she bought into that vision. Instead of just saying, I want to be at the guards, she really developed back to the basket skills. And I think she was a complete player by the time she left us, with an amazing toolbox. And as you look at those schemes defensively or offensively, how using your length and keeping them near the bucket is a huge advantage, because now they're altering shots, they're cleaning up the boards. Our guards can get up and pressure a little bit more, even if they get beat off the bounce. We have some secondary rim protection. Now, sometimes it gets us in foul trouble and it drives me bananas, but, you know, I think we have to understand that surprise and change coaches, when you have one defense, it better look different. Like, what's the point of running zone versus man if they look the same? Right. Unless you're trying to disguise it, right? You're trying to disguise your man. It's really a matchup zone. I think then I would argue, well, then just run a switching man, if that's kind of your look.
Right.
But I would suggest that if you're going to do changing defenses, the whole point of it is that they need to look different. So if you're up the line in man-to-man defense, then your zone package should probably be in gaps, or maybe you run a man package that gets in gaps. And so we have color packages in our man, so we can give different looks in our man sequence. Black, gold, white, orange, and blue are all different looks, and that could be the way we guard an on ball. That could be the way we guard one pass away. That could be how we guard in the post. Brown is something we rarely do because of our size, which is doubling down on an entry pass to the big. But again, it seems like it's really complicated, but really it's just colors that are tweaking your man package a little bit. And it's not that much to ask for your kids. So when we do our shell drill every day, we do shell drill every day in high school, we do a different type of shell drill and we use a different color. And so we're repping that color and making it look different. And that can really make a high school point guard or a perimeter player struggle, because you're giving multiple looks. Unless they're really polished,
Right.
it's tough.
Yeah. No, I see it firsthand when we play. Tell me a little bit about the matchups on offense, because you mentioned Haley Jones and putting her height and length. So if we were to put somebody smaller on her to maybe get up under her, if she's handling the ball, you will take her off the ball and maybe get her into a shuffle cut so she can post up, or something like that. Is that something that you're watching on film beforehand, or it's like, hey, how can I take advantage of this mismatch? Are you always looking to do that?
Yes.
On the offensive
Yeah.
end?
So we talk about to our kids directly, hey, how are you comfortable? And they may say, well, in this mismatch situation, I like the two-man game. I want to work a pick and roll, pick and pop, or I'm going to roll it and post. I like to pick off the ball, because then it allows the kid to establish position, and then we take a shooter from the weak side to stretch the defense. So you got to kind of pick your poison. You can help and double down on the big, or we're going to potentially get a 3-ball if you do. But you have to rep that stuff. So to just all of a sudden say, hey, we're going to post you up, you have to teach the kids how to A, recognize the mismatch, B, how to create the spacing, the timing, the floor balance, and then execute the proper pass. So this is stuff that we do a lot of breakdown drills in practice. We do a ton of stuff where we transition from defense to offense, and they have 10 seconds to score. And in those 10 seconds, I'm going to blow the whistle, and then I'm going to call someone out and say, where's the mismatch? And that person has to be able to answer. Oh, the mismatch was on the weak side. If I skipped it, we had a big on a guard, and she's either going to drill the 3 or go by her. It's like, good. Okay, so you're seeing the floor like you need to see the floor. We play with 10 seconds of latitude. So the first 10 seconds of the shot clock is theirs. And that's golden. If they can learn how to take advantage of space, 3-on-3 situations, or number situations, 3-on-2, or they recognize that mismatch really quickly, we have quick hitters in our package that are just personnel based. So Sid may call a quick hitter with a point situation as a point forward, right? Whereas Ashley Haraki is going to call a quick hitter that's a flare for her to hit a 3. So Sid and Ashley have similar calls, but they're going to do 2 different things off that particular set because of their skill set. And I think when we talk about mismatches, it's a wonderful thing to take advantage of, but don't kid yourself. You can't just do it on game day. It's got to be something that's repped and identified and practiced on the regular.
Yeah, I agree. One of the things that we've done is just try to keep it very simple, and you know, there's an approach that we want to get to, and if you take that away, hopefully we have a counter or a secondary counter off of that. But it's all simple, and you're right. It's structured in practice in a way that you should be able to execute, and then if you need to make an adjustment, okay, slip this screen instead of flaring it here, slip it. And those are the things that you can do on the fly, but you're not just going to write something up, because the kids that haven't repped it, how do you expect them to do it? And then you get mad when they don't execute what you just drew up in the huddle. Well, that's on you.
Correct. That's on you, Coach. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We're getting towards the end here, but tell me about shooting. We've talked about it a little bit. You know, one of your other rivals at Pinewood, Doc, that teaches the hop.
Uh-huh.
We've gone back and forth on the hop versus 1-2. What do you prefer off the catch for those coaches out there that are looking for a way to do something as far as shooting?
I think if someone is flattening out on the perimeter, we like to catch it on 2.
Yep.
So they can catch it, shoot it, or they can use either pivot foot. Now, if they're coming off of like a curl, like a stagger, and they're curling it, we let the kid choose. So we have kids who come to a 2-foot jump stop. We have kids like the hop, or we have kids who go inside pivot foot. The bottom line is I want it clean and quick.
Yep.
But I also think the only way to teach a traditional pull-up jump shot is off a 1-2. And so we do a lot of work
That's
on
off the bounce.
Off the bounce. Yep. That I think off the bounce, then you have to utilize a 1-2 to come up quickly and elevate. And you can actually take a 1 dribble 3-step approach to that pull-up that's not a travel, and you can gobble up a 10 court space. You can get deeper into the lane without actually getting blocked, because now you've got a secondary finish that's considered a mid-range that's not a floater, which a float game has a place in our game, but it's really hard to execute, consistently.
You just hit something that I want everybody to understand. And right now, everybody is consistent. 3 or key.
Correct.
But you guys do a tremendous job on
mid-range.
Mid-range. And people don't, especially on the girls' side, like, it's very easy to block a shot with limited or semi-skilled players, right? If you're elite, you're elite. But, a lot of times you just hold your hand up and you're going to get an opportunity to block the shot. Well, you guys pull up in the mid-range a lot. That's one thing I've noticed with watching the film on you guys so much. And we've gone to the point where we call it just a smart shot, because why are you going to go drive to get blocked, especially against a team like you that has a lot of length? Yeah. And why are you just going to focus on threes if you guys aren't making at least 33% as a team, right? And tell me about that mid-range, because I think a lot of people miss that. And if you watch the NBA, you're going to say, oh, it's either 3 or layup. But that's not necessarily the case, and that's
not true.
Great basketball. And think about one of our favorite teams, the Warriors.
Yeah, Steve Kerr, he prescribes to this idea of, subscribes to this idea of, hey, mid-range jumpers are, it's a layup for Steve Kerr from 15 feet. And I believe our girls, with their skill set, their fitness level, their floor, their understanding, they can knock down a 15-footer. And I'm not talking about a shot at which you jump. I'm talking about where you actually elevate, and at the apex of your jump, you're releasing the shot. And so we have to break it down, because most girls don't innately come into our program knowing how to pull up, hang, and at the height of their jump, release that. And the shooting pocket's different. The shooting pocket is different from a mid-range jumper compared to a 3-ball. And so this is something that we actually have developed, what we call our jump shot progression, teaching kids how to do that. And it is a process. It typically takes a kid a year, from freshman year. By the end of their freshman year, most kids can master a mid-range jumper from about 5 to 7 feet. Now our seniors can do it from 15 to 10, but that was something that, has required a ton of reps as well, right?
No, yeah, people don't miss that, and that's, if you watch a lot of film, you'll be able to see that. But I just kept seeing, if we ran you off the 3-point line, you're getting into that, 9 to 15 foot range where you're super consistent. If you're making that at a high level, 50% is just as good as a layup, right? So yeah, that's something that I've definitely picked up and we've implemented in our program.
Love it.
We've got a dinner party and you're hosting.
Nice.
You've got five people from the basketball world that you would like to invite for good conversation. You probably need somebody that has a humorous bone in their body, some knowledge, and they could be dead or alive. Who are the 5 people that you would invite to your dinner party?
Pat Summit, number 1.
Yep.
I would have John Wooden.
Wow.
I would have Phil Jackson.
Yep.
I would also have Marsha Sharp. And I would have Gino Oriema.
Wow. got to keep Gino and and Pat across from each other. But
oh no, I mean, he's so funny and knowledgeable, and he's great. And I've had the pleasure to get to know him in his recruitment of Haley.
yep.
But I tell you, he's a ton of fun and just a walking encyclopedia. And how about you, Chris? Who's your 5?
So I have 2. And I would want to get 10, but on the women's side, I would have Gino,
yeah.
Gino and Pat. I would have Doris Burke.
Oh yeah, good one.
I just think that she is incredible. I've got to get one of the best players of all time, and people always call Diana the best, but I would say Cheryl Miller.
I would have either. I like it.
Would be number 4, and I think actually I would have Tarasi as well, just because she's just an amazing person. Those would be my 5, and on the men's side, I would have Hubie Brown as far as like the analysis wise.
Yeah.
I would have Kobe, Michael Jordan. If I had to go coaches, if I was going that route, I would probably say Red Auerbach to get his perspective from the Boston side, and then maybe somebody like Magic Johnson that just can bring the whole group together. So that would be my group of 10.
That's awesome. I'm going to your dinner party too.
For sure. We'll definitely have some good wine. So
yeah, absolutely.
Anything else that you want to we spent about an hour, but anything else that you want to let people know? Where can people follow you? I know you're a great follow on Twitter and sharing the game. You've shared with me so many different things, and I appreciate our friendship and our relationship.
Likewise, Chris.
So let
Thank
everybody know where they can follow you.
I do have an Instagram account. However, I rarely go on it. My staff set it up for me. I'm not going to lie. Okay. But I do a Twitter account. It's Coach S. Phillips. And that's it. Coach S. Phillips at Twitter. That's the Twitter account. But at the end of the day, I'm open for business all the time. So if anybody wants to talk X's and O's, program management, feel free to email me at sphillips@mitty.com. We have lots of people come through the year to come watch practices, talk shop, go out for coffee with our masks on, social distance, of course. And I'm always open for ideas on how we can manage this COVID situation moving forward so we can continue to have our kids progress in their skill sets as well as their fitness levels. So I'm open to any ideas. I would love to hear it. And Chris, just want to thank you for this opportunity to be on the podcast and catch up and talk about the game we both love. So best wishes to you and your family. And continued success at Valley Christian.
Likewise, Class Act, we appreciate you for coming on and sharing the game.
Thank you. All right. Take care.
Thank you for listening to the Beyond the Buckets podcast. Please remember to subscribe, rate, and share the show with your friends. And until next time, take care.